This is the Ask Faleskini podcast, where the modern economy is discussed from a skeptic's perspective. Mr. Faleskini helps you distinguish what is sustainable in our economy and what isn't. Not everything that glitters is gold, and not all mud is dirty. The podcaster Mr. Faleskini provides no-nonsense advice. He had it all, lost it all, went bankrupt multiple times, and is now attempting to come back from zero with sustainable growth. There are numerous coaches and preachers on the internet that preach about positive thinking and how life is all roses if you just care to see it that way. Well, Mr. Faleskini is definitely not one of them. We recommend you ask Faleskini to keep it real. He discusses the darker side of the current economic reality, the side that's more important for your personal and business finance. His first intention is to help you keep what you already have. Not to be a complete party pooper, Mr. Faleskini will also hint at the earning opportunities in the economy today. In order to please the almighty algorithm, please like, share, and subscribe. And now it's time to start taking notes. The mic goes to the podcaster, the one and only Mr. Faleskini.
Welcome to the Ask Faleskini podcast with a guest. I'm proud to present Veronika Willdova from Prague.
Hello.
Veronika is an intuitive coach, a soul reader for purpose-driven entrepreneurs and conscious leaders. She's also an author, speaker, and composer. Veronika, please tell us more about yourself. What is your story?
Hello, Peter, and thanks for having me here. So I became soul reader after many years in IT world. So I got good understanding of business area. And then when I opened my intuitive gifts, I also started helping people from outside of the business world. However, people from business world still reached out to me with various questions about their soul journey, if I might say. So this is how I became intuitive coach for business people as well.
Okay, you have a long history of different jobs and tasks that you did in the past. How did all this job and task and project management and all the stuff that you did lead to your journey into intuitive coaching and soul reading? How did this contribute? And how does all this experience make you a better coach?
Well, thank you for this question. I think that I had always two different places in my brain, one for music and art and one for science, if you might say this way, because my father is also partly scientist and partly a composer. So I guess I inherited this two divisions brain. I always went in both ways. I studied University of Economics in Prague. At the same time, I had my own band, and I had shows with my band around Czech Republic. And then COVID happened. When COVID happened, I was in IT already. I was project manager / Scrum Master for creative people, for UX designers in Avast Software. Now it's a different company. I don't know if I can mention any names here, but
go ahead. If you're allowed to, just go ahead.
Yeah, I think there's no shame to say it, because I really loved working in IT, and I really loved working with my coworkers, with UX designers. I was project manager for them, and I always kind of stayed in the middle of the project, in the middle of the creative group. And this is what I still love, to be the person who is connecting everybody and everything together. I guess this is also the energy which helped me start with soul reading, because when lockdowns striked, we closed our offices and all the shows with my band got cancelled, and I found myself in my little flat with my little dog, and I was wondering, okay, what the hell is my purpose here? Because I missed people, I missed music, and because throughout this journey, I always did something spiritual. I was going to therapies. I was healing from my own kind of a story. And I asked myself, okay, so what would be the most authentic and truthful way for me? What is my most authentic self? And that was the year when I realized that I struggled so much to make my music dreams happen. And it didn't feel true for me anymore. So I asked myself, okay, so what would work for me more than music, more than trying to push my band to be successful in my country? And I could feel this spiritual connection, if I might say. I felt within my heart that somehow my task here is to help people connect with their soul. And back then I didn't know what it means. I was still searching. I did a lot of meditations and a lot of inner healing and clearing. I didn't know what was wanted from me. So I sat down with several of my friends and I asked them, okay, just sit here and I will try something. And I got into state of meditation and I asked this higher force, which I felt was guiding me. I asked, okay, so if I'm about to connect this person with his or her soul, what am I supposed to do? And for many sessions, nothing happened. I didn't hear or see or feel anything. I was just sitting there with my friends and it was very frustrating. But this feeling of that I should do it and that I have talent for it, it kept nagging me. So I kept practicing and gradually, session by session, I started to receive messages and pictures and words about the other person's soul. And just like that, soul reading became a thing. And after many months of practicing, I started doing it as a service, offering it as a service, first to my friends and family, then to my Facebook friends, to the community. And then suddenly it grew to the point where I left IT world and I became full-time soul reader, because this intuition, this can be developed and practiced, and it can grow when you feel it's your way, when you feel like you want to do it. You can grow your intuitive gifts to the point where it serves as a bridge between this world and the soul world, if I can say this way.
Okay. In my practice as a consultant and as a coach, I discovered that there are no problems within the business, and that always the things that manifest as a problem within the business are usually rooted in the problems of the key personnel that is executing this business. Would you agree with this thesis?
Yeah, 100%. And thank you for mentioning this, because this is such a big thing for business leaders and conscious leaders, that they try to make things happen in their work and they try to be in control and manage everything and keep their role, and they feel like they can never fail, and it's hard for them to actually accept the truth sometimes, that there is this vulnerable part of them which needs some love and some acknowledgement. And when they come to the practice, either yours or somebody else's, sometimes it's a very big surprise that their inner world is actually not the cause, but yes, it can be the cause of what is happening in their outside world, even with their employees or with their teams. So yes, I agree.
Okay, great. I would like to ask you another question. I know that you are full of certification and that you know a lot of coaching methods and a lot of teachings and everything, but you decided to go with intuitive coaching title. I would like to know, so when it's good to apply certain methods and when you just have to listen to your intuition and help people with what your intuition tells you. You also said that you see things and that you get messages and stuff like that. So let's simplify that and say that this is all intuition. And how would you describe the difference between methods? Because we all learn a lot of methods in our life in business. There are 4P of marketing. There is golden rule of cash flow. There is blah, blah, blah. Everything is there, and there are rules and everything, like 5 rules of this and 7 rules of that. And you apply this strategy, and then you need to do it like this. And this is the tactics that you have to use. And when is the time that you are so good in your field to the extent that you can say, okay, I'm intuitive coach, I'm above that. I know that you're above that because you have all the certification and all the knowledge in business and everything. And you are now above it. When does this start? When does this transition from, okay, I will coach you according to this method that was developed by this doctor, blah, blah, blah. And now you say, okay, I'm intuitive coach, just ask me anything. How did you gain all this self-confidence and how did you transition from one to another?
Well, that's a very good question. And thank you for that, because I never thought about it this way. So what is the difference for me? I think that everybody can imagine different things under intuitive coaching. It's true that I went under few trainings of coaching and also coaching in IT world and so on. But what I mean when I say intuitive coaching, when somebody comes to my practice, it's the advices I give or the message I am giving is never from my own head. It's I will describe the process briefly, but I close my eyes and I ask for the guidance of the highest love and highest truth. And the messages I receive are actually from the person's soul, or it is my point of view. I would describe it this way. So I can feel when the person feels that something is wrong with, for example, their childhood or their partner or their children and so on. It just, this intuitive force brings me this information. So I never react to their story with something I would learn in my head, but I always feel or receive the intuitive information from what is actually happening in their life. So after that, after this intuitive tuning into the higher force or into their field, if I might say, only after that I suggest, okay, let's go to your childhood, or let's release some blockage here, or let's look at your business strategy, or this is actually not about soul that much, this is more about you needing to practice more of a public speaking and so on. So I can feel where the cause of the problem can be and recommend some solution, but it never comes from any learned method, or that I would say, okay, I know the best, what is the best for you. I can only suggest what I feel would be good for the person based on the intuitive message I receive.
Okay, you're also a soul reader.
Yes.
And I would like to know your take. Do businesses and companies have a soul?
If their owners, if their managers are willing to see it, they have.
Thank you very much. And I have another question that I need to put straight into your consideration. I want your take on it. You're talking about the soul purpose. That's a method or a description that is, let's say, a bit older. All of our ancestors used soul and talk, and all our religions, regardless of which one we practice, they have some form of soul involved, and also they have this soul purpose and do what you should do and stuff like that. But would you agree that soul purpose of a company is simplified or extremely simplified in mission, vision, and other statements, and also in the programs like corporate social responsibility, ESG programs, and similar?
I guess my answer to that, my take on that would be, what were the people thinking about when they were writing those missions and visions and so on? Because in companies where I worked, we also had a mission and vision. And sometimes I was present to the meetings where this mission and vision was created. And sometimes it felt like those people are actually, thinking of the higher purpose of the company, like where we want to be in 30 years, how we want to contribute to the world, where do we see the company. And sometimes it felt really honest and authentic. And sometimes it felt like, okay, we need to come up with something so it looks good to our investors. You can say, I wouldn't put it in a universal truth, like, yes, mission and vision is describing the soul of the company, because I guess that the soul or the entity of a higher energy or higher purpose of the company is created by the people who are owning it or who are managing it. And if they are in tune to what they actually want and feel in their life, it reflects to the company.
Okay. Another question that is really important and that should help our listeners.
Yes.
So when you're doing mission, vision, and other statements and values and all this stuff, would there be, because right now these are mostly the either public relation people that would do that, or there are these change managers people that would like to do that, or marketing people, or investment relationship people, or stuff like that, as you mentioned. But would there be a good advancement, and would there be a huge help for the company if a soul reader like yourself would be present when they would discuss the mission and the vision? Because you have the ability to read the soul of funders, of investors, of management, and of the key employees. Would that be beneficial for the company to just employ a soul reader to help them with mission and vision state?
That's interesting and funny question. If I think of all the companies where I worked, I think for some of them, definitely. I think it depends what is the nature of the person managing the company, because I met managers who are definitely not into spirituality. And if I told them, okay, let's tune into your heart, what do you actually feel about your brand? They would be like, oh my God, I don't know what you are talking about. Get out of here, But I also met some managers who were able to bring their company to great prosperity, even in hard times. And the difference in their style was that they were building their company around certain values. And those values, you could feel the values reflecting from the people who were working in the company, from the numbers, from the investors. Everything was growing, and everything was growing in the prosperity because the person who was managing the company was asking for the higher purpose of their work. And I think in that kind of company, yes, soul reader could help, because he would at least calm down the main person, the main manager or CEO, to the point where they would be able to listen to their own intuition.
Okay, very, very well. So if we can recommend something to the readers, if you believe in something higher than yourself, and you would like to have a mission and vision and the values of a company that would resonate with your soul purpose, hire a soul reader, and they will help you prepare mission and vision statement and values in a way that is coherent with your soul. And if you have yourself and your company vibrating on the same vibration, this vibration will improve or increase, and that could help with your success. Would you agree with that?
I can't say I would agree with it in a universal matter. Like, I don't want to make it a general rule, but I don't know if it's the same as a mission or vision, but for me, the most successful brands are love brands, are brands or companies which are emanating certain vibration or energy, which is connecting to people's hearts for various reasons. And of course, it's different when you are when you work in automotive industry. Then definitely you will not ask for the work of soul reader. But if you are building sports brand, creating wear for yoga or something, then you definitely need to connect to people's heart. And soul reader can help you connect with how you feel about your brand. What is actually your how to say it, your intuitive vision. What makes you fall in love with your own brand, and it can help you align with your deepest feelings around your own brand. And I know that feelings and business sometimes do not feel like they can go together. But if you imagine Apple or any kind of creative brand which is supposed to touch creative hearts and creative minds, then they need to emanate certain kind of emotion and of feeling like, okay, this brand really understands me, or this company really reacts to my needs, and this company really sees me for who I am and they offer me products I need. So I guess Sorita definitely can help you with that.
Okay. You mentioned in your LinkedIn description that you help conscious leaders.
Yeah.
Would you agree that most leaders nowadays is unconscious?
Well, I don't.
You don't need to be politically correct.
I am just thinking because in my practice, I meet only conscious leaders, because unconscious leaders don't come to my practice. They wouldn't. They do not feel attracted to what I offer. So in my practice, I meet only conscious leaders. But when I was working in telecommunication and IT, I definitely met some people who felt really disconnected from feelings. But also, you could see that those people who had the lowest empathy score tend to be the most successful in managing the company, which was very interesting. I don't want to also make it as a general rule or that this is the only truth which is out there, but in all the companies in the highest management, there were people not really, empathetic or emotional, because I guess that makes you a successful leader in when the world gets harsh.
Okay, that is something that is believed generally to be true, but I would strongly disagree with it.
Okay, so what is your experience?
No, I met a lot of people that are not empathic, and I was also trained to forget my feelings and all this stuff. But the most successful people are really charismatic, and they tend to care about people, and they show them that they care.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, it's often in today's world where you have recruiters that don't have the slightest clue what they're recruiting for, and they just want to fill up these questions and say, okay, according to my analysis, he's perfect for this and that and so on. And they don't even see people, they don't talk with them, they don't understand them. So you have all this, let's say, bullshit that it's surrounding HR. And you have a lot of people that do a lot of damage, even if they tend to look on the outside that they're successful, but they cause a lot of damage. And more companies now understand that people can sue you for even emotional damage. And that is not something that you can completely forget or, I say, leave aside and said, okay, our bottom line is doing much better, because there's a risk in reality that can materialize that you will be sued for millions and then your bottom line will be negative just because someone is acting like a complete asshole. And that is, I still meet a lot of people that are, I'll say, not correctly socialized. And I don't know how they were climbing corporate ladder for like 10 years. Like they jumped 4 or 5 positions and nobody even noticed that they're complete idiots. And that is something that is amazing for me. How can you not? I talk with them for 10 minutes and I see that they're idiots, and I wouldn't even let them clean my stable for horses or something like that, because the horses would just kick him out, because the horses are also very intuitive. But what I want to say is that I'm just amazed how many idiots is there, and how mainstream media is pushing, you don't have to have, you shouldn't have feelings if you want to be successful. No, it's not true. You have to be extremely emotional intelligence, or your level of emotional intelligence needs to be really high in order to be successful, not low. You should not, it's saying you should work more. Not, you should be more efficient. And these are these general, I say, assumptions that prepare people to be really unsuccessful, and then they act like a fool. And of course, if you have a normal manager on top and you see that you're a shitty person, they will just fire you. Why? You will not be successful automatically because you're a jerk. And it's same in your business. You have to treat people nice. Of course, you don't. So there's a really distinguish, or there should be distinguished. And I would like to have your take on it. Just let me elaborate. A nice person is usually considered someone who gets stepped on and get used. But according to my definition, nice person is someone who is well-mannered and who does not hurt people intentionally without a cause, and can, even in a tough situation, keep their calm mind and act as it's expected, not as a complete jerk in a panic. And I do believe that society underestimates nice people because most of people, they substitute, or they don't distinguish between being weak and being nice. What's your take on that?
Well, I guess what is now happening in the world is that world is realizing that we need empathy and we need changes in a way we see and manage things. But there are still a lot of countries and companies who think in the old way, and you can see it in the world. There are still wars and political situations which are based on an old way of thinking. For example, thinking of control and thinking that some gender or some race is higher than the other. However, in our world, in our way of thinking, we see and we feel that those things need to change, that they are old. But in the management, in companies, you can see those worlds still clashing. And especially in the world of telecommunications and IT, where I grew up as a manager, project manager, you can see how different it is when a branch of the company is led by conscious people or by people who are not in touch with their emotions or with the needs of the customers. Especially in one company, it happened regularly that one part of the company came up with a campaign which was very empathetic, which went down, and they were really thinking about what our customer needs, what they want, how we can serve them. And then the management said that it was too weak, that it was not aggressive enough, and they would cut the campaign before it was finished and released. And this happened regularly, and it led to burnout of many people. I can see that in many companies, this would not be possible because they have to listen to the voice of the customer all the time and every day. They cannot afford to be aggressive with their campaigns. But in this very company, it was possible because their customers didn't really understand the product and what they could do or couldn't do with it. So I agree that strong emotional intelligence is a way ahead. That is what is needed. But I also can see that in a real world, on the higher management, this is not the rule, or this is not the main value which is applied in leading the company.
Okay, and now one last question before we finish, or the one before the last question. How should the people that are not in touch with their soul get in touch with their soul? How could they find intuitive coach? How can they choose it? How can they not get involved with someone that is just taking them for a fool? So how can people reach you, or how can they choose the coach that they want in their region? Or they can probably also reach you through internet and just talk with you, even if they're on the other side of the world. So what's your advice there?
Yeah, definitely. I think, of course, they can reach me. I am in the middle of Europe, so I have Central European time. But and I'm used to working from people from all parts of the world. But if you want to reach somebody from your area, I would suggest, sometimes people don't call themselves soul reader. They call themselves Akashic Records reader, or maybe even meditation coach, or somebody who I guess the most important thing for you is to feel like this person resonates with you somehow, like their description of their work makes you feel, yes, this is what I need, this is what I want. All the time, anytime you work with somebody, what is especially important in the spiritual world is how you feel during and after the session. Do they make you feel more open, liberated, and more powerful? And no matter if they use words like soul reading or coaching or whatever, because sometimes even in spiritual world, it can happen that there is somebody who will tell you like that you are wrong with your feelings, that you are wrong with your intuition, and after the session you feel like smaller and less powerful, and you feel like, well, what am I even doing here? So, and it's the same with your own head. If you want to connect with your intuition, the voice of your soul is always kind and supportive and loving. It always makes you feel like you can achieve things, like you have many options, like you can always leave the toxic situation, or start a new business, or close or leave the relationship which is toxic for you. The voice of your soul is always kind. The voice of your fear, however, will always tell you this is wrong idea, and you cannot even connect to your own guts, and how you are supposed to leave this company or this relationship when you are not, worthy of anything. This is the voice of the head. So actually connecting to your soul means connection to wise and loving part of yourself.
Okay, let me repeat that. If I understood correctly, the voice of your soul is nice, is full of option and full of optimism. The voice of your fear, of your ego, is not nice and will try to scare you away and will try to diminish you. Is that correct?
Yes.
I think that's a great insight for our listeners. So is there anything else you would like our listeners to take from this interview? Any quick tips or any trade secret that you can share with our listeners?
Yeah, I guess you can call the soul or your intuition in many ways, but if you want to think about it in terms of your own brain, we have parts of our brain which is thinking and part of our brain which is experiencing. And if you, for example, think of the book No Self, No Problem, the experience of the soul, or this higher energy, as we call it, or divine energy, or whatever, this is within our own system. It's actually not something that's spiritual. We call it spiritual because it's not usual. It's not something we would be taught from childhood and we would experience it every day, but it's within our own brain. We can even, you can find researches about divine hormone, like how to bring more of the hormone which is released when you have those high spiritual experiences. But also during the meditation, traditional Buddhist or Zen meditation, you can get to the state of bliss just with releasing all the thoughts and tuning into this experiencing part of your brain. So even if you call it in a different names, you are very capable of reaching this feeling of connection with your intuition yourself. So that's.
Thank you very much for all these tips. I would just like to know, where can our listeners and viewers reach you?
Yes, I think if you put Veronika Soul Reader to Google, You will see a lot of things. I have a YouTube channel with free videos, and you can see if those videos will resonate with you. And if you like it, you can find me on my website, veronikaheavenwithin.com.
Okay, I'll include all the links in the description. Thank you, Veronika. Thank you for being my guest tonight.
Thank you too. Have a great day.
Thank you, Mr. Faleskini, for this outstanding podcast. And thank you for listening to the Ask Faleskini podcast until the end. Mr. Faleskini would love to hear your feedback in the comments. And don't forget, if you want to know, ask Faleskini or listen to the Ask Faleskini podcast. In order to please the almighty algorithm, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.